Grazie. Senti, è un'estasi venire in questo giardino. Entrare in questo giardino è un'estasi. Lo so, infatti sono molto... Ti sono veramente grato per quello che hai fatto.
Tu sei andato in giro?
Un pochino, sì, non tantissimo, ma ho visto delle cose, delle piante belle, sane, piene di prana, di vita.
Sono 12 anni che ci lavoro.
Si vede tutto, sì, sì.
Incontrare la visione del maestro.
E lui, sono sicuro che lui la vede ed è molto molto felice. Hello. Che mi fa solo bene. I go? Okay. Good morning, everybody. I am very happy to be here. Thank you for coming. My name is Costantino, and long time ago... You cannot hear me? Oh. Un po' di... Okay? Can you hear? No? Okay. So, long time ago, in a distant country, a baby boy was born, and that was me. That long time ago is in the 1950s, last century. And I was born exactly now 9 years after the end of the Second World War in the city of Milano in Italy, northern Italy. So I also grew up many years of my childhood there, and I went to school there for a certain period. So I want to say, back then I looked at the world around me, and it was very different from the world that we have now around us. In Italy, there was a big, strong feeling of coming back to life after the war and of reconstruction. And there was industrialization going on, and people were working very strongly, very hard. There was actually a neighborhood in my city that had been bombarded and was many buildings were destroyed, and they were already reconstructing as much as they can, and they were renovating the whole city after these terrible years of the war. So there was industrialization, like I said, and the city was surrounded by factories and industries. So the air was not extremely good back then. Now it's better because now Milano has been changing into more the capital of the business, of the services, and of fashion. So no more industries around Milano. The city also has changed. But I can say, when I was a child, I was, just the first years I was accompanied to school and picked up at school by somebody of my family. But after a while, it was quite safe. When I was a little bit bigger, I just went by myself. I took the tram or I took a bus and I went to school and came back. But of course, back then, there were no cell phones. There were no, the media, the only media was television and radio. And television had just beginning. In Italy, in the 60s, it began really. But in the late 50s, when I was a real child, television was just beginning. It was only one channel, state-owned, in black and white, and not many families could have one TV set in the house. So that, especially in villages, people who wanted to know the news, they gathered in cafe and bar where there was one television, and they were watching and were receiving all the news. That was the only media that existed. And the radio was there for many, many decades before. But the radio had also been used by, as a propaganda means during the war. Whereas in this period of complete trying to change life, to the television media, it was mostly about culture, about bettering the life of the citizens, of the people. You know, back then, in my country, there was a very high range, very high percentage of illiteracy, for example. Many people from the villages, from the countryside, they didn't know how to read and write. And they didn't speak the Italian language. They spoke only the local dialect, which sometimes was very difficult to understand from one area to the other area, very difficult. So the television was doing everyday lessons for learning how to read and write. Huh? So I was watching that. I was watching that as soon as I could watch television. And it was so interesting. This teacher, I remember him. He's still in my memory. He was very patient and very slow and was explaining well and writing the letters and everything. And so it is that through the use of television, the Italian people learned the Italian language, all from the north to the extreme south, and they started to be more able to communicate with each other. Because, you know, there was, just a few years before, there had been a big change in Italy. Immediately after the war, I think 1949, I believe, finally there was a parliament united, and some parties, the parties were created, and they indicted a referendum for the Italian people. And the referendum was, do you still want the king, or do you want to have a republic? You see? So just a little bit before my beginning of life, Italy changed from a kingdom to a republic. And that was a big change for Italians, for everybody. And there were very strong adversary parties. Mostly the parties were created from, well, all citizens, of course, could enter, but some people who were involved during the war in the so-called resistance, they became very strongly politicized. And two main parties created, the Christian Democrats and the Communist Party. And the Communist Party was still in very strict contact with the Soviet Union. So they were receiving help, and they were also saving all the weapons that they had been used and hiding them because they were originally with the idea to make a Soviet revolution in Italy and become like a communist country in Italy. But then we were helped very much, and it didn't happen. So the Communist Party kept existing, and but it changed. It changed through the years, through the decades, into a more democratic version of itself. Anyway, that's one thing that I want to say, like big change. So I was born immediately after a big change. Another thing, when I was born, the population of the planet was 2,685,000,000. Now, 2025, the population is 8,231,000,000. So it's almost quadruple. In the lifespan of one man, the population of the planet is 4 times more. You see, this is already a big change that is being happening. So it's been quite dramatical in the span of my lifetime, the change that I saw. Of course, like I said, the technology was very, very simple. We didn't have much technology. If I have an emergency and I couldn't come back early enough from school, I had to look for somewhere to find a token to go to the public telephone and call my mom and say, hey, I'm going to be a little late because this and that happened. If I couldn't do that, then it was a disaster, because my mother would go worried very much and very angry with me when I came home, you see. This happened a few times. And so now we can see around us what is happening. There is war everywhere. There's so much war, so much aggression, so much dissatisfaction. People are very strongly turning against each other. There's division. And then in the social level, there is more and more difference between the very poor and the very rich, the extremely rich. The gap is becoming more and more, which is something that has been happening only quite recently, actually. For the whole period after the war, after the war until the 80s and 90s, there was an effort for all people in the planet, mostly the democratic states, to have a more equality, to go into helping people who were workers, working class people, making enough money to live well, decently with their families. And the system was also taxing the rich, taxing everybody in a certain level of percentage, which it was a good idea, probably. I'm not an economist, I don't know exactly, but anyway, nowadays it's been twisted. It's been twisted very much, and so that we have the very poor and the very rich, and the middle class is shrinking and shrinking. This is one interesting thing. And then from the point of view of nature, they say, the scientists say that there is so many thousands of species of animals and plants that have been extinct in this century, since the beginning of the century to now. They've gone extinct, like, I don't know, 20, 30,000 species. And every day we are losing a species, a complete species of beings of this planet, for many reasons. One of them is also the environment and the lack of space for living. And then also for us. At this moment, as of now, we don't know exactly. There is a kind of veil of mystery about what we are eating, what we are drinking, what we are breathing. We don't know, and can't very easily find out how much microplastic is in our tissues, in our brains, how much poison from pesticides herbicides that we assume with food. And how much chemicals are coming to our system, to our organism, through all the objects that we use every day. There's a whole class of chemical products called PFAS, P-F-A-S, and these they are called the forever chemicals because they don't change. They remain in the body and they remain in nature for as long as we can imagine. They don't change, and they are so much diffused in all products. For example, well, if we cook in a non-stick pan, for example, there is PFAS there, and it gets in the food, and we eat it. Or if we put our food in a plastic thing and put it in the microwave makes the plastic hot, and all the microplastic gets in the food. And also plastic contains a lot of these forever chemicals. So, this for our body. But also we cannot very easily check. It's not so easy at the moment how life is, how we are receiving informations. We don't know if there's truth or fake. We don't know. But we don't know how many lies, how many falsehoods, how many fabrications, and how much deceit is given to our minds through the media so that we can nurture it and follow it and fall for it. We don't know. It's very difficult. How can you know if some news comes from you that something happened in a political place in another country, if it's true or not? A politician said this thing and another politician did these things, but how we know? It's the way it's presented. It's not transparent, and it's very difficult for us because there's too much bombardment of information all the time. So also on the mental level, there is a strong pollution. It's a very strong moment of pollution. And we ourselves, of course, we have been changing through all the decades that we've been exposed to this. For example, the rate of infertility, The rate of infertility has been growing and growing and growing, especially in more developed countries. And the scientists say that it's in large part caused by the different pollution that we inhale, that we eat, that we drink, that get into our body through the years, because it's something that works very slowly, very methodically. But then nowadays there is more and more difficulty to having babies, especially in developed countries. But everything is changing anyway. We are changing because our body is trying to adapt. We are trying to survive. This is the important point that we have to see. It's nothing to blame to our body if we get sick or if we get some problems. We are just trying to survive into the poisonous environment in which we are living, that we have built around ourselves. So anyway, events are unpredictable. It's difficult to predict. We are sometimes at a loss to find the meaning of all this. It's difficult to find the meaning. What does it mean? What is all about? What is this all about? So that can bring some mental problems and disturbances to us. Anyway, a little astrological remark. Since the pandemic, I have been beginning to study astrology, Western astrology. And I've been following some courses, also online courses. And I learned some amazing, pretty stunning things. For example, we are presently living in a phase that from the astrology, we can see there is a monumental change going on, a huge change. Some planets have been putting themselves in relationship to one another in the sky in ways that are never happened before in memory of humans. It's something unique, particularly the so-called transpersonal planets. You know that in astrology there used to be, until the 1700, until actually 1781, the planets were considered to be 7. Of course, the word planet from astrology point is not like in science. So also the sun is a planet, the moon is a planet, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Saturn was closing the gate. Saturn was the last considered existing planet in the solar system. So from this, many meanings of these planets were found and were in the years, through experience, through analysis, through proof of happening, they were given their mark, the energy, the mark of their energy, how they act. But the transpersonal planets are more modernly discovered. For example, the first one of them was discovered in 1781, and that is Uranus. Uranus is, and then after 100 years, Neptune was discovered, and Pluto was discovered in 1930, and recently in 1977, 78, also another planet, Chiron, was discovered. And they are, because they are further away from the sun, they move slowly, they move more slowly. So when they have an alignment to each other or to other planets, smaller planets like the closer planets, their effect is felt much more strongly because it lasts a long time. You see, the longer it lasts and the more it is felt. All right? So Uranus, for example, was discovered around the time of the American Civil War, the American Revolution, the rebellion against the Kingdom of England. And a little bit after the discovery, there was another revolution, the French Revolution. So because of that, many astrologers found that the energy of Uranus had to do with rebellion, revolution, changing things, and also sudden changes, for example, very strongly sudden changes. And that is just an example, just to tell you. So these transpersonal planets, generally they have an effect more on the historical level, on the social level, on the totality of humankind, more than on the personal lives. Because they are so slow that, for example, I was born, I have Uranus in a certain position in my chart because of the date and the hour I was born. But Uranus remained there for such a long time that many other people on the planet have Uranus in that position. See what I mean? So it's called a generational effect. It is not like a personal effect. For example, Mercury is so fast that I can be born at a certain time of the day. Somebody is born in the other time of the day, a little bit later, a few hours later. Mercury is in a different position, and it does a different job for influencing that person. So the point is that now the transpersonal planets for the last decade, I would say, from the beginning of the pandemic or even a little before, they have been creating aspects to each other, which is, it means geometrical angles to each other that are unusual, that didn't happen very often in history before. And lately, they are beginning to do positions and aspects that are even more unusual, so unusual that in human history they have never been recorded. Especially many of these are called, I call them the big guys, because they are powerful, they are very strong, and they are also, if Pluto is very small, he's extremely powerful. He's the planet of death and rebirth and transformation, for example. So they are all, in this moment, they are all connected to each other. They are all interacting to each other. And the energy that humans are feeling is a strong energy of change, extremely strong change. Many astrologers say that this is like a pivotal moment, a critical moment. It's like a rite of passage for humanity. Almost, some of them, they say that humanity is now in the birth canal. So it's like the end of humanity's childhood, and it's becoming the beginning of the humanity's adulthood. That means that there is involved a very strong and very critical consciousness shift, that we have to grow up. Humanity as a total has to grow up in this period. And this period it's been going on already for a few years, and it will go on again more until, what I know what I have heard from astrologers is certainly until the end of 2027 or half of 2028. These planets are going to do these strong configurations. So some astrologers call this the end of Kali Yuga. If you know what Kali Yuga is, there's an Indian system of counting time that it's every kalpa is divided into 4 yugas, and the Kali Yuga, from the first yuga is generally extremely positive, like a golden yuga, but the last one, in which we are until now, it's the Kali Yuga, is the heaviest one, in which there is no clarity, very little blessing in the world, and everything is more difficult and heavy. So, if you think about, if it's true, this is also a sense that we are, of course, in a big turmoil, because it's the end of a long period, and a new period is going to begin in the years to come. So it is important that we understand that we have to do something to ourselves. We have to work with ourselves to grow up, because the world will never be the same. After this period, we will look around again and we will not recognize the world. Things are changing at a very fast, accelerated pace, and both politically, socially, naturally, in all aspects. So it's important we now understand this, that we need to be aware of what's going on. We have to open our eyes, open our ears to be more responsive and to be ready to not only adapt, but even, so to speak, to surf on the waves that are changing. It's like a tsunami is coming, and if you just stand in front of the tsunami will just take over you and destroy you. But if you can surf, then you can plunge into the water and reach, and then try to surf on top of the tsunami and give also direction to your life. So the idea is to survive. Many say that there's going to be 2 different types of reaction to what is happening. One is the reaction of closing down, of trying to grasp to the old world, to grasp to the old situation, and try to go back to the old and remain and go back to how it was. And another group instead is going to open up and accept the change and manage the change in themselves and outside. Because the key point is that what we do outside has to be mirrored in what we do inside. So in order to make a change in our life, we have to make a change in our inner life. This is an important point. This is what I want to talk about. Because of course, all our lives, since we were born, we were constructing our worldview. We were looking around as newborn babies and just taking everything in and trying to make a sense of everything. And we had a few important things for us, which is surviving, eating, being loved, and feeling protected. As a newborn baby, this is what we can do. But then, when we grow up a little bit, we start learning from our families, from the life, from the world, that what our need to be protected, our need to be loved, our need to be surrounded by certainty is continuously changing. So we have to adapt to the change. We have to look what is going on, and we change ourselves in order to survive, really. That means that we are always looking for stability, for reliability, dependability. You know, we need a world that we can trust, that we can feeling like, okay, this is the world, I live in this world, I do this, and I will survive, and I will be well. And on the other hand, of course, we are continuously seeing that the things are changing, and in a way sometimes that we cannot predict, in a way that it's changing so fast that it's not easy for us to adapt or to find a way. So we have to just understand this. We have done a particular job to our mind since we were children. We have been looking around and through our five senses, with our ears, with our eyes, and with our three senses, and we have elected and selected a few things that were more important for our survival, for our well-being. But doing so, our mind has learned to cut away many other things, data actually, information that is coming through. Our eyes see many things, but we don't see them. We see only what we want to see. And this is because we are looking for something. We don't even don't remember anymore what we are looking for. But we are looking for survival. We are looking for being well, to eat, to drink, to go to sleep, to have a roof over our head, and to be loved, to find a good situation in which we can thrive. But we find confusion, and so we cut away many things. That means that because of this, at the end, some parts of the world that is around us becomes totally invisible. And not only the world around, but also some parts of our mind becomes invisible. Some parts of our mind that we don't like, we just put it in the dark room, I say. We put it away, like because it's not socially acceptable. Like, for example, when you're a child, to be angry, it's considered, you're a bad boy because you're angry. Although anger sometimes is justified. You know what I mean? So, but because we grow up with this conditionment, we try to hide when we feel anger. We try not to show it. And at the end, after some time, we are not even aware that we are getting angry, for example. We don't even know, because our anger is being put away in a dark room in our head or in our mind, in our heart, somewhere in our consciousness. This is, for example, because it was not socially acceptable. But then, of course, it's not that it disappears. All this accumulates in us. And there is a part of us that we don't see, and it keeps accumulating. All the parts that we cut away from our normal life, so-called normal life, no? So, one thing also that starts to be important to do is to take care of ourselves, to look into ourselves, and to accept what is going on. So, in general, when there is the practice of psychotherapy that can help, but there is also a very interesting thing that we can do just alone, which is entering into a state of meditation. And practicing a state of meditation in this way gives us the clarity to see. And how do we see? Because, again, if we just look normally, many things we don't see. But if we look like we when we meditate, without focusing on anything in particular, we just look in the space, so to speak, the inner space of our mind, the outer space, then we start seeing things that are there, that have been there all the time. This is just an example, but it works also with our emotions. It works with our states of being, with our feelings, with our body, also with the feelings of the body. It works. The moment in which we learn how to relax and be open, our senses are open, then we begin to have more understanding. We begin to see what is there and say, aha. You see? Sorry. We need to observe ourselves, to be present to ourselves as much as we can. So we are generally anxious because we want to live in a predictable, reliable environment. If the environment becomes unreliable, unpredictable, we get scared, we get anxious immediately. And we say to ourselves, what if? Many things go entirely unnoticed, but many things are changing. And if we don't look, if we don't see, we make them into monsters. Everything that is changing is scaring me, is menacing me, threatening me. Just because I want to be in a world that doesn't change. Although it's impossible, because if we see what happens around us all our life, change is continuous. I'm sorry. This island is beautiful, but when the dust is in the air, it becomes a little difficult to breathe. So the cause of our confusion perhaps is to be sought in our perception, how we see, like I said. So we view the world and we create our world view through our perceptions. But are they accurate? Do we really see all there is? For example, a person come to us and talk to us very sweetly, but if we look or listen carefully, we can hear in the voice of the person that it's not sincere. We can see in the body language of the person that it's actually different. The message is different than what is being said. And so, if we are open and able to see that, well, we have a better way to live. We can react and deal with everything in a different and more effective way. And then also in this world we have so many disconnection. We feel disconnected. Like for example, using the social media, we give away easily our privacy completely in order to get connections, as many connections as possible, and have many friends. But they're not really friends because we never met them. I mean, it's an idea of friendship that is different than the one I grew up with. When I was young, my friends are people who I met, I talked with, sometimes I argued with, and we went out together, do stupid things together, do good things and bad things together. But those are the friends. Some friend who cares for you. You care for them, you know? This is a friend. Instead, in the social media world, we look just to a screen and we get a lot of likes, or dislike. And we measure our life on that. It is very weakening. We are very weak. And we have been given out our privacy, all our private life, all what is precious to us, but we found ourselves alone in a room in front of the computer or with a phone. Like, I see so many people walking in groups and not talking because everybody's looking at their phone. You know what I mean? It's interesting, it's different, but it doesn't work anymore. This system does not work. What we need to do is look at each other's faces, look into each other's eyes, and connect, reconnect with people. We can do that better if we reconnect with ourselves, with the part of ourselves that we don't usually deal with, the part that is considered bad boy. Psychologists call it the shadow, the bad boy. But the shadow is part of us. The important moment, for example, in psychotherapy, is when you discover that all the terrible things that you think, that you don't want to admit that you think, or that you would like to do something terrible, it's coming from you. It's not something coming from some devils outside. It's all coming from you, and it's part of you. And as long as it is part of you, and it is not acted into some evil actions, that is acceptable. And you have to make friends with it. The point is to make friends with yourself again. Because also, one reason why we have sometimes the feeling of disconnection is because we are not connecting with ourselves, with our core. See? But if we do connect with ourselves, and we observe ourselves, and we are present and compassionate with ourselves, then we are also able to be present to the others, to be compassionate with the others, and to connect heart to heart, eye to eye, soul to soul. Yeah? So it's reconnecting is the first point. And acting in everyday life, acting through this, and also recognizing others as humans that are worthy of compassion, of love, of respect. It's also something that the social media have been kind of castrating, the sense of recognizing the other as a human being, and respecting the dimension, the being of that person. So if we don't do that, we fall into the so-called haters. We can very easily, like when you are in social media, many people, they say something a little bit different from the group they are connected, and everybody points the finger at them and sends terrible, horrible messages. Or, and then it looks like these messages are actual, real things that are coming to you. But we don't, for a minute, imagine or are aware that these people who are writing these things, if they are people, because sometimes they are not even people, they are robots. But if they are people, they are not people that we know. They are people that are living who knows where. We never met them. We don't know who they live, how they live. We don't know anything about them. So they're not our friends who are now turning against us. They are just other human beings that are completely confused by this media, confused by the algorithmic stuff that comes continuously through the media. So that's why I'm saying reconnection and recognizing others. So these times are leading to a global transformation, and we better get ready. We better mature. We better grow up. But what direction we want to give to our life depends on us. In the moment in which we see who we are and we see really, sincerely, what we want from life, what we want to do from life, how we want to live. So the changes should not overwhelm you. The changes should just wake you up, be like a wake-up call. Now, for quite a long time, and now I've been thinking, maybe I should find a place to live that is a little bit safe from a nuclear war, somewhere where I can be safe. But then I looked at the map of the world, and I say, where is safe? Where is a safe place? Like, it's not so easy, because whatever happens, even in a war, you cannot predict. You don't know. So the best thing is deal with the unpredictability of outside, becoming unpredictable myself. The great Václav Havel, the ex-president, a former president of the Czechoslovakia, he wrote a beautiful book in which there is a phrase that is very nice. The heart of freedom is unpredictability. Unpredictability, it doesn't mean to be just, the bad boy, to go and do things that nobody expected, but just not particularly follow what everybody is expecting that you do. Follow instead what your heart tell you. No? And this you become sincere with yourself. You become more true to yourself. And we become unpredictable. But unpredictability is really one of the important things. Another one is to be authentic, authenticity. Find really, before we speak, do I want to say this? Do I really mean what I'm about to say? Or is it just something coming from my general conditionment and distraction? Is my words powerful because they come from my heart? Or are they just empty sound? And then to gain some sovereignty upon our life. Sovereignty means to be master of your life. This is the way to get free, to be free inside. You see? So, the great poet, American poet Maya Angelou, she wrote, aging is biological, but growth is by choice. It's quite true. It's quite true. We can also go on all the rest of our lives without choosing anything and just being swept around like a dry leaf in the wind, and swept here and then swept there, you know. Or we can choose, and that means we grow up. We are stopping to be just children, like little children. We have been children for hundreds and thousands of years, and we have been limiting our brain and limiting our knowledge and capacity because of this. But now is the time to open up also our knowledge, our capacity to gain more freedom in the world. So to do that, we have to meet uncertainty. What is uncertainty? Uncertainty is like a big, scary thing. Now we are afraid. What is going to happen the next? What is behind the next corner I have to turn? You know, and then brings anxiety and fear. But we have to instead understand that uncertainty is into us also. All our so-called subconscious and unconscious are parts of us that we don't know. It's uncertain. We don't really know what is in our mind, in the deep of our mind. So unless we go in and we learn how to work with our shadow and work with our inner feelings, the deepest ways of manifestation of ourselves, then we don't know. But to do this, I want to quote another person who is Henry David Thoreau, the writer. And he says, "Not until we are lost do we begin to know something about ourselves." So that he's saying, get lost, lose yourself, lose all you thought was right and true, and open up to everything that you never knew is truth. Because truth is there for everybody. But if we construct our own truth, then we are in that box. Instead, lose it. Lose yourself in the self that you have constructed. Then you start to know something. So, you know, it's just that. It's only that I wanted to say mainly. But I want to say another verse from Peter Gabriel, the singer. He says, "It's only in uncertainty that we are naked and alive." So that means that uncertainty is not so bad. Uncertainty is actually a saving moment. The moment in which we stop being afraid, we stop being rigid and grasping to something, and we flow, and we go with the flow, and we open up. Whatever may be, but I am here with myself. I am master of my life. And my life, I lead it. I decide what direction to go. No? This means to be naked of the old self. So go through this birth canal and leave behind who we were and become who we are meant to be. We are to be complete human beings, total human beings. Yeah? To do this, we have to do like Frank Zappa says. Frank Zappa is a musician that passed away a few years ago, great musician. But he says the mind is like a parachute. It does not work if it's not open. Okay? Okay, thank you very much. So now there is a little bit of time. Do you want to ask me questions, or is it okay? You don't need to. Any questions? Come on.
We have some question online, I think. We are
Online?
looking online question.
Yeah.
And here, nobody want to make some question. If someone you want, we give microphone because we have also some people online that can listen us.
Well, in fact, the question is, what is the statue on the table?
Oh, yes. This beautiful statue was given to me as a present by this wonderful gar, this Dzamling gar, where I've been just doing 3 days of seminar and retreat. And this statue represents the goddess Tara of the Canarian people. It's the Canarian people, the original Canarian people they are called Guanches, and they were a very, very precious specimens of humanity, because from the archaeological surveys and exams that they did on the bodies in the tombs, they found that they were perfect, pure Homo sapiens Cro-Magnon type, which it was in these islands. It was like an enclave, completely isolated, and they were totally pure of that particular level of development of mankind, of humankind. So the goddess Tara is the goddess of nature, the goddess of love and protection. She is the mother goddess. Mother goddess, that means that give everything. It's the mother goddess is a figure that is everywhere. It's in all cultures, in all religions, there is the mother goddess. Like humans cannot do a religion without the mother goddess. It's impossible. We need a mother. Personally, also, the Tara is also the name of the mother goddess in Buddhism. And myself, I am devoted to her. I am a Buddhist, I forgot to say. And particularly when my own mother passed away, I had a strong feeling that Mother Tara was there around me all the time, comforting me and protecting me. Like, okay, now your worldly mother has come to me, but I am here for you. And so the feeling of the mother goddess is with me all the time. And I am always surrounded by her arms who protect me. Okay?
Okay. We do one on one. We have one question on site, and then we have more questions online.
Okay. Go on site first.
Hello, thank you for your time, for being with us. If you don't mind, personal question. On the last part where you said to lose yourself, how many times did you lose yourself in your life?
How many times, and pardon?
Did you lose yourself?
I lost myself.
Yeah, to create yourself again.
Yeah. Well, it happened to me quite a few times, since childhood, actually. First of all, when I was born, I was not supposed to be born, because in those times, my parents, they had blood groups that were not compatible, and so it was deemed very, very difficult that my mother had a child with my father. And then when I came out, I had this strong feeling of strong love and also expectation, because I was being expected very much. But on the other hand, there was also a feeling of pain because of the other times that my mother had tried to fall pregnant and had lost the children. So I felt this since my childhood, and I grew up with this sadness and grieving, which I didn't know what it was until I went into psychotherapy. Then, in the long time, slowly, it came out. and I understood. Anyway, then something happened to me. Actually, quite a few things happened to me. When I was 8, I had typhoid. I had the typhoid, you know, typhus. So I almost died, and but I didn't die. And I went to, after 3 months of staying at home, they sent me in school, and I received the polio vaccine, which was not the first dose, but the second or the third, which is the active one, and I caught polio. So I had to be taken to hospital again, and then for a long time I had to be doing rehabilitation, right? In fact, I'm okay now. I can. On the other hand, then the professor who gave me the therapy, he said he has to go live in the Alps. This guy was a Swiss professor, and he says he has to live in the Alps and walk and ski and skate on the ice and do all the movements, because I was growing up. I was in that point 8, 9 years old. And he said he has to move and do sports for his limbs, legs, and arms. So I went to live in the Alps with my mom for a few years. And in that occasion, I fell from a mountain at a certain point. I was having a walk, and then I had a big fall, and I went into a coma. And I stayed out of it for about a week. And funny enough, when I wake up after the coma, well, my father was destroyed, my mother too. But the first thing I said is, "Mom, Dad, I'm a Buddhist." I don't know why, but something had happened to me. Maybe I saw something. I lost myself and I found myself. So that was one thing, one point, you see. And then through my life, I went out there a few more times, 2 or 3 more times. And always I came back transformed. So, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so online, one of the questions, we have 3 more, this one and 2 more. How can more questions again. How can I go through the fear of change?
Very good question. Very good question. Yeah, the fear of change is what I was talking about. We don't like change. Generally, we try to stay in the world that is permanent and just fixed and remain the same, reliable and everything. And then we have the knowledge as we grow up more and more that actually it's not true. The world changes continuously. Even our body, like they say, the cells of our body every 7 years are completely renovated. We are not the same body that we were 7 years before, for example. And the change is scary. The change makes us scary. But what we can do is what I was saying. Reconnect with yourself. Look at the fear and accept the fear. The fear is part of you. So you don't have to reject and say, no, I don't want to be afraid. Because this is not working. It will not work. Instead, you say, okay, I am afraid. What am I afraid of? What is going to happen that will be bad for me? Or bad for the people I love? And look inside yourself, your mind, your heart, and try to see what this fear really means for you. Because the fear is just an appearance, it's just a mask. But if you take off the mask, there is you back there. And there is you telling you what it is. It's just like, it's simple, but it's You have to work at it. It has to be worked. You have to face the fear, not like in a confrontational, contrasting way, but to face it and to accept it as part of you. I mean, sometimes fear is very healthy, it's very good. Like if there is a threat, you run away because you're afraid. And this is a natural, very good for saving your life sometimes. Fight or flight response, the limbic system. But also sometimes this type of fear of change is not real fear. It's more like anxiety. It's more like panic. It's more like something that you don't know. If you're afraid of a tiger, charging you, or a man with a gun, then it's something in front of you. It's there. So that's real fear. But if you are instead afraid of what if, what can it be, then wait a minute, sit down. Take a moment. Make silence into you. Shut up. And be aware just of your breathing. You are breathing in, you are breathing out. You are alive. Your breath is life. And as long as you are alive, you can survive. As long as you are with yourself, you can do it. And this is, well, what I can say to that. We could talk about it a long time, but this is, in a nutshell, what I can say.
Anyone questions on site?
Seems okay.
Okay, we go on online. What is the goal for the life, and why are we living here?
Fantastic. I wish I knew. I wish I knew. But the point of I've been asking myself all my life, what is the sense of my life? What is the sense of life? And in many occasions, particularly occasions of suffering, I saw that after a terrible event, like losing somebody you love or losing something, life goes on all around you. The sun goes up again. The grass grows again. The flowers bloom again. Rain falls again. Everything goes on. And life does not stop because you have stopped yourself. So, my sense of the world is to live, to be one and with your life and live, accept your life, own your life, to own your life. We don't know if there is a plan that for our life is meant to do something or do other things. But we can find out if we look inside, if we have a tendency to do something, if we have the idea to do something, and it's really coming from the deep, from ourselves, then maybe that is the sense of our life here, of our personal life here. But in general, I think the sense of life is living. Because if you look around, even after losing somebody you love, life wants to live. So, even if somebody is dead, they're not dead. They're just gone somewhere else. They're just doing some different trip, for example. But life wants to live. And so, I'm alive, I want to live. Well, I remember my first therapist, who was a great, great therapist, his name was Barry Simmons. Once he was into a talk show in Italian television. And the talk show, at a certain point, all the different guests were talking about, is there life after death? Is there life after death? And so the host of the show asked Barry, says, do you believe that if there is life after death? And said, I will not answer to that, he said. But I can tell you, my job is to make sure that there is life before death. Yeah, so this can be a good answer, no?
Okay, so Ellen is asking, in a situation of uncertainty, psychologists recommend regular support groups every week or every day. Costantino, can you continue to work with us every week?
Well, thank you for the invitation very much. At the moment, I am busy with my life. I cannot do very much on a constant basis, like a weekly thing. But of course, groups of support are good. If you find yourself with other people who are sharing your problem in this or that way, the first thing that happens is that you don't feel lonely anymore. I'm not the only one with this problem. There are other people like me. That is already opening yourself, you're opening your heart, and you start to connect with these people. So this is great. This is very, very helpful, very healthy. So I suggest, I cannot do it because also I'm not qualified. I'm just a normal human being. I'm not like a professor or a psychologist or anything. I'm nothing in this case. But you go with a group with a qualified teacher or qualified, how do you call it, facilitator, I guess. And it's going to be good for you, maybe. Okay?
Okay. Which authors and of the poems you told us? Someone wants to know the author of the poems or maybe verses that you mentioned.
Oh, I quoted it, like Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou is the one who wrote aging is biological, but growth is by choice. Maya Angelou. She's an African-American poet. She passed away recently, unfortunately. She's a very, very good poet, beautiful poetry. And Henry David Thoreau is a writer who was famous in the 1800s. He was writing about going back to nature. And this is not until we are lost do we begin to know something about ourselves. But then I can also quote more. Like the famous philosopher Voltaire. He said, experience is not so much what happened to you, but it is what you did with what happened to you. So this is already also an answer to this. No? And I have another one, which is very nice. I forgot to mention it because my speaking took me in another direction. But this is a beautiful one. It's by the philosopher and mathematician Ludwig Wittgenstein. If we take eternity to mean not, I will repeat. If we take eternity to mean not infinite temporal duration, but timelessness, then eternal life belongs to those who live in the present. That is Mahayana Buddhism in perfect. Yeah? Okay, that's as much as I can say.
Okay.
Or Václav Havel also.
What?
Also, I quoted Václav Havel, the ex-president of Czechoslovakia, who he said, the heart of freedom is unpredictability. To be unpredictable. Okay?
Another question. What could be the spiritual reason why a father cannot participate in his daughter's life?
Cannot.
Cannot.
The father cannot participate. It's so difficult to understand, to know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what is. I don't think there is one spiritual reason. It depends on the father's heart and mind and the daughter's heart and mind. It depends of many factors, like the father maybe cannot adapt or cannot open up to the spiritual path of the daughter, the ways that the daughter is seeing the spiritual life. And he has his own way, and he maybe is not capable to come towards his daughter to be with her, to follow the same. But it's also a question of being respectful. Sometimes the father just say, okay, I don't understand you, but I respect you. So you go your way, but I cannot follow you. And also the daughter has to respect that and say, okay, my father has his own way, I have my way, still he's my father, and I respect him. So this is, I think, this is my question, my answer to that.
Thank you. Next one. Why Western astrology? Why you chose Western astrology?
I chose Western astrology for many reasons. One of them is that I grew up with a mother who was a Western astrologer. And so I heard about astrology many, many years in my childhood and also teenage years. Although it was very mysterious to me how you can say this, because she was very good, you know, she was saying, okay, you have this planet and that thing, so be careful about that. And actually, it turned out to be true. And now that I'm studying astrology, Western astrology at least, I see that it works. It really works. I mean, I can suggest a book that is extremely interesting if you are into books, because it's a thick volume. It's called Cosmos and Psyche by Richard Tarnas. Cosmos and Psyche is a historical overview of many centuries of human history connected with the astrological events of that period. And it's extremely clarifying how there is a correspondence, there is a way that it can be brought to each other, the planets and the human life and the life on Earth. So why Western astrology? I guess because it felt closer to me. It felt closer to me, to my cultural upbringing. But I'm not limiting myself. In the future, I have also in program that I want to start studying Eastern astrology, Indian, Chinese, and Tibetan astrology, which they are all interconnected, especially in the Tibetan. Tibetan astrology is a kind of a point of contact between the Chinese astrology and the Indian one, the Vedic astrology. But I know nothing of them, so I cannot speak about it now. Okay?
Okay, and we have for now the last question online that I don't see it now, but it was, no. How did you meet Chögyal Namkhai Norbu?
How I met him?
Yeah, but also, I guess, who is or who was Chögyal Namkhai Norbu? We need to explain this, no?
Yeah. Well, if you have time, I can tell you the whole story. It's a long story. I'll try to be compact as much as I can. When I was, let's say, when I was 19, 20 years old, no, actually, the first time I met a Lama in general, a Tibetan Lama, was when I was 16. That was in 1970. And I had the fortune to meet the 16th Gyalwa Karmapa. And I was so fortunate that I managed to make contact, personal contact with him. So after my trip, I was with my mom. We came back to Italy, and I had a photo of him, and I kept him like a very important person for me. And then after some years, I went back there, and my mother also was with me in a group of people, people mostly from Denmark. And the Karmapa and my mother decided to make a center for Buddhist teaching in Rome. And my mother would be taking care of it. And so he said, I will send you a teacher that is from our school. But for the moment, because this person I have already chosen is very old and is sick, he has problems with making his documents right and has to be treated. So now he cannot come. And so you have, anyway, you live in Rome, you have a very, very important Tibetan, a very, very important teacher and Lama in Italy who is living in Naples. And his name is Chögyal Namkhai Norbu, Karmapa said. And actually, we had met him. The first time I met him, Chögyal Namkhai Norbu, was in the airport in Rome, where we were waiting for Karmapa arrival. He was arriving with his retinue to meet the Pope, which the Pope was Paul VI back then. And Chögyal Namkhai Norbu was there. He's been called and invited to participate as a translator to the meeting. And so he was actually acting as interpreter in the conversation between the Karmapa and the Pope. So that is the first time I met him. And there was immediate feeling. I had an immediate feeling for him. He's a very, very important teacher. On the other hand, I didn't know much about him, just that the Karmapa said, he's a very, very good teacher. And so anyway, my mom, luckily, she was a big chatterbox. She liked to chat. And so she started chatting with him, and they made contact. So at the end, we ended up exchanging the telephone numbers and all this. Then, this is how I met him. But then we started asking him to teach. We started asking him to teach. We have a small group, we said, in Rome, of people very interested in Buddhism, and we would like to receive teachings from you. And also the Karmapa has told us to ask you. And so he had received letter from Karmapa telling him. But for some time, he didn't decide to teach to us. It took around 2 years of time. And then at a certain point, he started teaching us. And he came to my mother's house, our house, one day. And we gathered all the people, and he started saying, I have been receiving for 2 years letters from Gyawa Karmapa ordering me to teach you. And now I don't take orders from anybody, not even Gyawa Karmapa. However, now, if you want, it is the right time for me to teach to you. But I'm not going to teach you the school, the tradition of the Karmapa, because I have my own teaching. And my own teaching is called Dzogchen. So none of us were very acquainted with Tibetan Buddhism, and we had never heard the word Dzogchen. We didn't know what it was. But he said, no, this is the teaching I can give, and this is the teaching I will give you. So we of course, we accepted immediately, and he started talking. And when he was talking, I was just transfixed. I was looking at him. He talked for about 2 hours. He was talking in Italian. He was actually working as a professor in the University of Naples. So he spoke very good Italian. And his teaching was something that I had never listened before. I had been already following some teaching from different lamas, very good teachings, Buddhist teachings, traditional teachings. But his approach and his way of transmitting the teaching was totally different, completely different, and it won me over immediately. That is, okay, I am at home. This is my teacher. And so this is how I met him.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, my
there
pleasure.
are no more questions, I guess.
No more?
No.
Excellent, excellent. So thank you very much for your attention. It was really my pleasure to be here with you. Goodbye.
Okay, thank you, Costantino, very much. Thank you, everyone on site and online. And before you leave, we are having a potluck. That means like we're going to share some food and some drinks in the cafeteria. So if you want to join, it would be fantastic. So thank you very much for coming. And also we have like a large program of activities. Like we have weekly activities, and then we have like every month some courses and events. So if you want to check also our program, there's going to be the information point, which is the wooden house, that you can go and receive some info about it. Thank you very much.
All right.